Baker Mayfield's the guy, they said. Freddie Kitchens was a solid choice as their new head coach since he has some familiarity and comfort level working with Baker Mayfield. They made the Odell Beckham trade. This is a move that's going to put him over the top. That's going to help get him over the hump. John Dorsey is a quality hire. He's going to be the one to truly right the ship for the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have the potential to win that division in the AFC North in 2019. And most certainly, worst case scenario, have playoff expectations. While my team sucked this year, there's nothing that has given me more solace than knowing that something that has been so critical to my enjoyment of doing NFL-related YouTube videos the past few years is come back to me. They're back! They're back! They're back! The skid marks are back! Yes, they are! The skid marks, baby, are back! Woo! And it feels so good. Like, look at the breakdown here. Baker looked good in year one, even though he beat up on some bad teams, looked like trash against good teams, but nonetheless, he didn't look like a total bust. Now, year two, you're wondering if he is a bust because you hired a guy in Freddie Kitchens who only had half a season experience as an offensive coordinator just because he had worked with Baker Mayfield. And Freddie Kitchens showed he was clearly in over his head. You give up a first and third round pick to bring in Odell Beckham Jr., and he is a pedestrian 1,000-yard season if you've ever had one. And the team with all this smoke being blown up their arses. It all went wrong starting in week one. They left no doubt. Baker threw 3 picks and the Titans spanked that ass. It is almost like the skid marks never left. And it's so glorious. And it feels so, so good. Power struggles between John Dorsey and Paul DePodesta, the baseball guy. And then you see reports of DePodesta has good ideas and good suggestions and wants to make good moves. So the guy that was supposed to fix it, like so many idiots said, and John Dorsey, of course, does the wrong thing because there's just something toxic about this organization. You know what the hell it is? It's their ownership. It's Jimmy Haslam. That crook doesn't know what the hell he's doing. As a result, you lack strong leadership at the top that's going to trickle down through the rest of your organization like a plague, like a disease. The skid marks went from playoff expectations to now you're wondering if the rumors are true that players are telling other players on other teams and other coaches on other teams that it's a mess and they want out of there. You're wondering whether Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be one and done in Cleveland. You're wondering if Baker's the bust. And now you're out there looking for a new head coach one season after you had hired Freddie Kitchens, who was in over his head and clearly the players didn't respect. Throw in the good clean shots Myles Garrett got on Mason Rudolph with Mason Rudolph's own helmet. And by God, the skin marks never left me. And if anything, you could argue, it's one thing to suck when you're expected to suck. It's one thing to suck when you do suck, because at least you expect it. But there was reason to believe that this team could grow and improve in 2019 compared to the season helmed by first Hugh Jackson and then Greg Williams. And instead they regressed. They got 3 wins in the division. That's great. 3 other wins against everybody else. Wasting Nick Chubb's big year. Wasting Myles Garrett's double-digit sack season before he got booted for a few games left in the season. Defense was 30th against the run. Baker certainly played like a bust. Like, if you want to tell me that Baker's got all this potential, that's great and wonderful. Maybe you cling to that. Maybe he still does. But what I saw was the AFC version of Mitchell Trubisky. And guess what? That ain't good. And if you want to get all caught up in your emotions about that, you can save it, because you can't look at that 2019 season and think that it gave you any reason for positive hope whatsoever. You take the 6-foot quarterback, number 1 overall, and then he blows chunks in his second season. Instead of progressing and showing that he can be the guy, all that swagger and attitude that he has, all of a sudden when things don't go well, doesn't help your situation, doesn't come across so well. And you're seeing what looks like more work being put into Baker Mayfield's freaking commercials than you do his play on the damn field. So, of course, the skid marks being the skid marks, fire another head coach after 1 season. Fire another general manager after 2. Like, if you were the Cleveland, if you were being offered the general manager job of the Cleveland Browns, you'd almost have to think you want to get in your contract a 3-year, no termination agreement. Because if you make it through 2, you are one lucky son of a bitch. And all these Browns fans praising Sonny Brown. Look at the assets. Look at the assets. Or you look like a bunch of assets because John Dorsey's an ass. Like, even when you just look back at their draft picks in the first round this decade, like, oh my Lord. The Phil Taylors of the world, the Trent Richardsons and Brandon Whedons of the world, Barkevius Mingo, Justin Gilbert and Johnny Manziel, Danny Shelton, Cameron Irving, like I can go on and on, Corey Coleman. Yeah, you stumbled into Myles Garrett, but that's because you had the number 1 overall pick. And even then, you could still wonder, as great of a player as Myles Garrett is, as much as my Bears get crap on passing on Trubisky for fucking Mahomes and Watson for Trubisky, the Browns had the number 1 overall pick and passed on both of them. And oh, by the way, not only passed on Deshaun Watson once at pick number 1, we're sitting there at pick number 12. He fell into their laps and they decided they wanted to trade back, because that's what the skid marks of the National Football League do, baby. Like, what the hell does it even matter to talk about anything else with this team? What, cap space is offseason? $52 million? Whoop-de-doo. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Oh, they're going to probably create another $15 million of cap space by cutting Olivier Vernon, because, yeah, he was such a great acquisition again. Yeah, I'm kind of having my moment in the sun, because I threw out a caution there when they hired John Dorsey, everybody giving him the anointing oil and crap. And I said to, among other things, you look at Kansas City, he put him in a really bad salary cap space, knowing ultimately deep down that Andy Reid was still the shot caller and decision maker in Kansas City. And furthermore, it was Andy Reid that wanted Patrick Mahomes, and he's the one that made that happen. But sure, let's bring in John Dorsey, whose teams got to the playoffs, and that was it in Kansas City. He's going to be the guy to totally right the ship. He got 2 seasons. And what's so awesome about this, too, is you previously, before 2018 or whatever, you had Joe Thomas retire. And his team still hasn't addressed the left tackle position. Like, why would you not address that position, knowing you've got a young quarterback? Trading for Odell Beckham Jr. is great, but if Baker's getting rocked and killed all the damn time, he can't really help that. That comes down to play calling being poor, decision-making being poor from Freddie Kitchens, and the protection being poor in front of him. You lose a future first ballot Hall of Famer and decide basically, effectively, you're not going to replace him! God. This team's so dumb. Hey, you look at that 2018 class. You remember I compared it to 2014, just in an inverse order, reverse order. Instead of being the corner, then the small quarterback, and Justin Gilbert and Johnny Manziel, it was Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward. And while surely they are not nearly that bad, how good are they really? Denzel Ward took a step back in year 2, and good God, did Baker Mayfield as well. Oh, 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 oh. And you absolutely love to see it. Not hate to see it, love to see it. Uh, so looking at this team, coming up to offseason and in the draft, number one need is an owner. They've got Jimmy Haslam instead. They need an owner that knows what the hell he's doing, not some freaking crook that's asking other people and other organizations how to do things. I'm sorry, Browns fans. You're probably irritated with my laughing. It's all real because, God, this has been such a glorious experience throughout the course of the season. All these chickens coming home to roost. Oh, the Browns are going to be this. The Browns are going to be back. They're the skid marks, and they never stop being it. Oh, it feels so good. Number 2 need is a general manager. Is it really going to be Paul DePodesta? You're going to bring in a general manager, and is he going to have real general manager's powers? Or is Paul DePodesta and others in the organization on the analytics side going to be working against him? Then you got to find a head coach, and good Lord only knows how badly they're going to screw this up. Look, his name is Lincoln Riley. He coached Baker at Oklahoma. That is the guy, unless it's somebody like a Mike McCarthy, which also makes a world of sense. It's one of those two guys. Go out there, throw him a shit ton of money, promise him some personnel power, and make the deal happen. But we'll see if and when they eventually screw that up too. It doesn't even matter. In terms of actual players that they need guys like Baker and Denzel Ward to not stink. That would be nice, but they could also use a left tackle that can actually better protect Baker Mayfield's blind side. I feel like they could use a defensive end opposite of Myles Garrett because while Garrett is a stud, they don't have much else there in terms of their front four and a pass rush. On the back end of their defense, you got to plug the hole that was created when you traded away Jabril Peppers. You need somebody a strong safety. Could use some more help at corner. Could use some help potentially at right guard on that offensive line. Like, even in the grand scheme of things again, doesn't even really matter. Browns gonna Browns. And I'm here for every single moment of it. Because the skid marks are back, baby. It feels like a piece of me has been made whole again.